Welcome to Lead with Love, Live Aligned. If I haven't met you, I'm Coach Catherine Hood. I am a self-leadership and relationship coach. So what does that mean? Right? So some people are like, oh, relationship coach, that makes sense. You help me with relationships. Well, it's much deeper than that. So it's self-leadership is choosing to lead your life in alignment with how you want to feel. Or, in other words, living your life in alignment with your values, what's most important to you. It's teaching you leadership in your own emotional freedom. The relationship part is the relationship to yourself, the relationship to life, and relationship to others. So it's a short title with a lot of meaning in it. And I think what I'm going to do for a while, anyways, is offer what that meaning might mean at the beginning of these podcasts and maybe adding a different way of saying it each time. So we can add some clarity and have a little fun with it. All right. So this podcast is this channel. I've kind of, it's evolved over the years, but it's a space for me to break the rules, right? For me, not only me, but you as well. We are all taught rules, ways to engage with life, we're taught cultural ways of being, right and wrong, good and bad, and all these things. So we're going to break the rules, rewrite the script, rebuild our relationship to ourself, life, and others. And we're going to learn how to live from the inside out, not the outside in. We're going to live from the inside out because everything starts with you. It starts with your perception of how things are. It starts with who you think you are. It starts with who you are being. It's the stories we make up, the judgments, the assumptions, the expectations. So everything you're experiencing every single minute in your life is really all begins with you. So let's dive in. Today, I want to talk about, this is what rose for me. I actually tried to do this podcast recording yesterday, and I was getting all ready and I read through everything, kind of where I kind of wanted to go, the direction, and had my head right there. My mind was empowered and excited to share with you, as I am today. But what we had a power outage, like a 5-hour power outage. So I just went outside and did yard work, but I had a lot of amazing thoughts. And most of the day, I actually just was in nature, just totally. I was weed whacking and picking up rocks and wood and all the different things. We have 22 acres and it's all kind of raw land. So it's all needs to be cared for. But anyways, most of the day I navigated with no headphones. I didn't listen to anything. It felt like what I needed, and it really felt really good. And then the rest of the day, I put my headphones on and listened to podcasts. I've been just listened to a podcaster that I've met and really developed a relationship with. And so it's just fun. Anyways, I love podcasts. I hope you do too. And if you find this one interesting, and maybe that's a good place for me to say, listen to this podcast with the hopes to learn something new, just one thing. Listen through your ears of what can I learn, discover, hear something different. It might be something you've heard before, but heard in a different way, and one action step. So listen to this whole podcast with something to learn and something to do as a result of what you've learned. Okay, so let's begin. So your mind is the starting line, right? So your mind is not an organ. It's not a nose. It's not lips. It's not ears. It's not your brain. Your mind is all those thoughts. Okay, so your mind is the starting line. Why nothing changes until your thinking does. Okay, so I kind of already alluded to what this is about earlier, but that is the title. But what I want to point to is, and I think this is a lot to do with where I began, but you can hustle, You can work harder, you can read books, you can take courses, you can take programs, you can get certified, you can get a degree or multiple degrees, and you can try, emphasize the word try, to change your habits. Your mind is still going to be running the same habits, loops, ruminations, thought processes, programming, conditioning. It's still going to run through these old habit loops. So it's basically, if we take all these courses and programs and books and do all these things and get really, really, really busy and add all these things to our list of things to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a sore, or it's like, oh, better yet, putting a Band-Aid on a sliver. That's all you're doing, right? So it might work for a day, a week, maybe even 2 weeks, but nothing really truly will change. Okay, put that Band-Aid on top of that sliver. The sliver is still there. Okay, so we can't effort our way, we can't pressure ourselves into change. We can't make ourselves change. Our mind is going to resist it. Our mind is going to become more sneaky, more powerful. It's going to get creative. And what ends up happening is when we effort without conscious awareness, when we force, when we try, when we do more, what ends up happening is this is, in essence, disguise or burnout. This is exhaustion disguised by the doing, right? So it's exhaustion, it leads to burnout, it leads to overwhelm, it leads to analysis paralysis. When we're doing, when we're signing up for all these things, we're taking all these courses, reading all these books and doing more and looking outside of us to feel better. We're putting the Band-Aid on top of the sliver. And that is exhaustion and overwhelm in disguise. That's a mask put on what's really going on here. So every experience you have isn't coming from outside of you. Every single experience that you have, the highs and the lows, is generated through thought in each and every single moment. It looks like, it appears like, it feels like you're reacting to life itself. But what you're reacting to is the stories that your mind is making up. You're reacting to the thought that you're believing. You're reacting to the stimulus that's happening in your mind. Your mind is protecting you and guarding you and safe keeping you. It's keeping you in the comfort zone. If nothing changes in your mind, nothing will change in your life. No matter how much effort you put in, no matter how much pressure you put on yourself, it won't change. We can't do more to be different, right? We're human beings. We're not human doings. We don't need to do more. Oftentimes when I work really closely to my VIP clients, it's really doing less. It's taking stuff off the plate, not adding more to it. So no matter how much effort you throw at whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in your life, your goals, or to feel better, or to be happier, or to be more balanced, if you throw more at it, the more you're focused on something outside of yourself, you're focused on something external, and you're putting a Band-Aid on that sliver. Okay. What I want to kind of offer for an insight is, instead of doing more, instead of coming from, how do I get happier? How do I get more done? How do I balance my life out? Come from a place of, how open-hearted am I? How open and curious am I? Because if we are continually doing more, efforting and pushing and repeating the same patterns, it's almost like we get more of what we don't want. It ends up being Groundhog Day, if you know that movie. This is a 1993 movie. Bill Murray. I'm not a huge fan of Bill Murray, but that movie actually was semi-decent back in the day. But he basically relives the same day over and over again. I don't even remember what the end was, how he disrupted the day, but I think he was a really big jerk at the beginning, and maybe that's why I like this movie for him, because I feel like it was a really good fit for him, because he is kind of, this is being judgmental, but he is kind of abrasive, in my opinion. Take that or leave it. But I think what ended up happening is I believe, it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. The part that I like about it is it's the same day over and over again. It's a great metaphor for coaching. If you're my age or around my age. But I think what ended up happening is he had to break his own mind pattern loops and do something different. He had to be kind. He had to be grateful. He had to be appreciative. And anyways, maybe I need to find out about that movie. Anyways, but what I think is when you're open-hearted, when you're curious, when you have optimism, right? And you look at approaching your day from gratitude and appreciation and kindness and compassion for everyone around you, like Bill Murray, I believe, in that movie, he breaks the pattern, he breaks the loop. When we come from curiosity, right, we become more curious, we become more grounded, we become more quiet-minded, we let our minds settle versus working hard, trying, efforting. We get more peace, we get more connection. We don't get more peace, we don't get more connection from efforting, pushing, pressuring, right, on ourselves and or anyone else. What I find is a lot of people, when I first meet them and they want to be potentially a client, I find them exhausted and tired and emotionally hijacked by the mind, emotionally hijacked by frustrated thought patterns, really focused on scarcity. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with them? Feeling frustrated by life, feeling frustrated by the people in their life, feeling frustrated, annoyed, angry, upset by what's happening outside of them, because we're focused on what's going on outside of them. But when we become really curious, we become optimistic, open-minded, we focus on ourselves, then we can see outside of us more possibility, more opportunity, more connection, more love, more bounty. When we have more emotional trust internally, we are able to offer more trust externally. When we trust life, when we trust that things are going to unfold as they shall, notice I didn't say should. When we trust that things are going to unfold in our own journey, in our own path, the way that it's designed to, right? When we add urgency to it, that's when we get irritated, frustrated, impatient. How do I know? It's not something I work on. I work on all of these things. In fact, depending on where I have been along my journey, I've worked on all of these things. I wouldn't talk about them if it wasn't something that I haven't overcome or something I'm not currently working on, right? I wouldn't talk about it. And truly that, and yesterday is a great example of me being out in the yard. It's 22 acres, and that can be very overwhelming. That could be very overwhelming. I don't know. I don't even can't think of another word, but it's, these weeds are relentless and they just keep coming up. Like, I feel like it just did this area. But what I realize is the sooner I become at peace with what I'm working on and find just a small section to work on and focus in on it, I can like start to listen to the birds chirping if I don't have my headphones on, and the nature, and become reflective and life and the cycle of life and the animals and creatures that I come across and all the different things. Or if I'm listening to my headphones, when I focus just in on that square foot versus all the square feet in 22 acres, it becomes lighter, it becomes easier, it becomes doable. And then I can focus in on my podcast that I'm listening to or my audiobook. Yesterday was a podcast, but when I become less of needing to do a certain amount or accomplish a certain amount or judge what I'm doing in this moment is good enough, grand enough, putting a big enough dent, or, I just relax and I let things unfold, I become more patient, I become more free, lighter, and I enjoy the process. And I was experiencing that yesterday. And I think how we do all things is how we do, or sorry, how we do all things is how we do one thing is how we do all things. I think that's how the saying goes. I might be mixing those words up, but what I'm trying to say is that there's some unfolding that I'm witnessing in my coaching practice that I'm noticing when I'm out there working in the yard. There's some similarities. So when I'm out there, I'm like, how do I, because when you have a coaching practice, it can get very complicated and very complex, and you're dealing with a lot of people and you're really working on a lot of different projects and a lot of things. And there's some things that are at the beginning and some things that are in the middle and some things are at the end. There's just a lot of things to juggle. And it can feel overwhelming, just like weeding 22 acres. I'm saying it's 22 acres. It's not really 22 acres. I mean, we have 22 acres, but not all of it I'm weed whacking or working on the landscape, let's say. And part of me is like, what would Martha Stewart do? I watched a video about her and she's all into landscaping. I'm like, whoa, so it's fascinating. Anyways, I digress a little bit. But what I do believe is that there's a similar thread that runs between the two, right? There's a similar feeling when I'm out there weed whacking as when I'm looking at my practice and noticing all the balls I have in the air and how fun and exciting it is. Like some stuff is at the very beginning, some stuff is very mature, some stuff is in the middle, the messy middle, or whatever. So there's different things. So how are these similar? And what am I learning when I'm out there in the yard that I can take out in my coaching practice? So anyways, notice that in your life where you have a similar feeling. It may not describe it the same way, but it might have a similar feeling. Example would be like if you're feeling overwhelmed, right? I think that's a really good one. If you're feeling overwhelmed at work, business, whatever it is that you're doing, during your day job or whatever, if you're feeling an overwhelm there and you're feeling an overwhelm at home with your family, maybe you still have young kids at home and it's chaotic. What are you learning in one of those spaces that is working, right? Maybe you have an overwhelm at work and you've been able to figure out a way, an equation, I like to say, that's working at work, that's offering you an ease or a peace of mind or a lightness that's allowing you to navigate that, or vice versa, and apply that equation to the other thing. Always, always, always. Okay. So maybe a low feeling to a high feeling, and you're feeling it in some area of your life, and being able to use that equation, whatever's working, that's allowing you to move from overwhelm to lightness. What is that? What are you doing? And how can we move it into another area that you're resisting, right? And really at the end of the day, it's really learning to navigate what your mind is telling you, what your mind is saying. Like it's almost kind of like roommates in your head. What are the roommates in your head saying that are creating a feeling in your body and your nervous system? How do we talk to those roommates to give them reassurance and safety in whatever it is that you're doing? It's another way to word it. Okay. So you'll hear me say things in a different way to see if something will land. Like one thing might land and the other might not. And that's okay. And if none of this lands, that's okay too. So I'm really just using different types of language and different metaphors to see what works for you. Sometimes one works for me and it may not work for you, and that's okay. I'll keep going. So it's really learning how to navigate your mind. It's learning to find the peace of mind. Notice the language. Learning to find peace of mind without chasing it. It's not chasing it. It's not grappling for it. It's not searching for it, because your peace of mind is already inside of you. We're all given that peace of mind. We all have it internally. It's underneath all the busyness. It's underneath all the noise. Peace of mind is underneath it all. It's your default. The more we believe it's something outside of us, in another book, another course, another program, another thing, adding more things to our list, like, oh, I got to meditate, I got to do yoga, I got to do these, I got a to-do list every day of 25 different things, and I'll be happy then. That's not true. Likely it's doing less. And I often get, when I first meet a lot of people on the initial call that I have, then you're welcome to book one, just to meet me and just have a conversation, is a lot of people think that there's something wrong with them. And what I believe to be true is that there's nothing wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with the people around you. There's nothing wrong with your life either. Because when we look at what's wrong with us, what's wrong with other people, what's wrong with our life, when we look for those things, we'll find things that could be better, right? We're training our mind to find what's wrong with us. We're training our brain and our mind, and that there's something wrong with the people around us. Your environment is not to blame. Your childhood is not to blame. The politics are not to blame. Your childhood is not to blame. When we get stuck in the complaining and blaming, we limit ourselves. And we get more of that. Paradoxically, we get more of what we don't want. If you're wanting peace of mind, it's doing less. It's experiencing less. It's almost like slowing down to go faster. It's really taking off your plate those things that are not serving you, those things that you're doing out of pressure, out of guilt, out of shame, out of what everybody else is doing. Well, I got to do that too because I want what they have. Well, guess what? You probably don't know what they have. I saw a social media post this weekend that was saying one thing, like the headline and all the text and everything about somebody. And I was like, that is so far from the truth, because I know this person and that's not true. You'd be amazed at what you see on social media. And when you know that person, you know what's going on, and like you are their confidant, and you know what they are really going through. And when someone else is saying something totally different, I'm just like, it just baffles me. It baffles me to see how untrue a lot of things are. And I mean, it was even in the text, but a lot of times we also create thoughts and beliefs that, oh, that person's really busy. Oh, that person's got a lot going on. And that person's really successful because they have all those followers and all these things. But no, when you talk to them one-on-one and they feel safe to share with you what's really going on, you'd be surprised. A lot of your perceptions, your assumptions are not real and not true. Anyways, I want to focus in on the invisible pattern that we all experience millions of times a day. And that pattern is our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and our outcomes. And again, back to the whole Band-Aid over the sliver, a lot of people focus on the action. What do I need to do more of to make me feel X, Y, and Z? Right? So they work backwards. They work on the action or the outcome. I want this outcome. So what action do I need to get to that outcome? And they're just focused on this tiny little segment of the pattern. But the reality is it starts with who you are being and what you are thinking. That is getting under the Band-Aid. That is taking the sliver out. So another example is some people think the sliver is, well, they'll leave the sliver there and they'll throw the Band-Aid on. And like, if I change my jobs, if I move, if I leave this relationship, if I change this person, then I'll be happy then. But that's not the sliver. That's not changing. That's not or change. Here's another one. And I used to believe this too, is when my body looks a certain way, when it's a certain size, when it's a certain shape, then I will be happy. That's not true. That's not where your feelings come from. I learned that the hard way. So love to share that story with you if you're open to it, but it's very much not true. In fact, I think it makes things so much worse. Your thoughts always come first. They shape how you feel. And some people are like, oh, well, then that means you want me to manage my thoughts. You want me to think positively. Isn't that toxic positivity? I'm like, well, what you're describing is toxic positivity. I'm not preaching that. I'm not pointing to that. What I'm pointing to is understanding where your thoughts come from, how they're created, how many thoughts you have a day that are on repeat, what the flavor of your thoughts are, and being willing to look at them kind of like an outsider in perspective and seeing them live in the moment, live in your life. Like, this really takes being very consciously aware, because most of us are just on autopilot. Like, we're really not aware of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, which happen like milliseconds over and over and over again throughout the day, right? So having what I think is the best is being really aware, like turning up the volume on your mind when you're interacting with those people that you love and care about the most, because there's a lot of thought patterns with that person, like your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your spouse, your kids. Those people that you interact with, there's a lot of patterns in there. And those patterns are often patterns that you're thinking about yourself as well, that flavor. So example, if you're thinking about your partner or your mom or your dad in a way that's like, man, I just wish you would do more in a day. I wish you were not so messy. I wish that you would, what's another one? Be more outgoing and more fun. I wish you would be more encouraging. Okay, so those things, you're projecting that out on them. In order for you to think that about them, you're thinking about yourself that way. So again, what I pointed to earlier on in this podcast and where I come from, and why I call myself a self-leadership coach, and self-leadership and a relationship coach is having a healthy relationship to yourself and life first and foremost, and then the relationship to others is easy. Okay, so that relationship you have to yourself and life is what you project out onto others. So again, a lot of people are like, everybody is mean to me, everybody is rude, everybody is obnoxious, they're lazy, they're messy, they're grumpy, they're judgmental, and we're pointing fingers and blaming, but we have 4 fingers pointing back at us. We wouldn't see that in others if we didn't experience that in ourselves. So the work starts with you. Our feelings come from the conscious and non-conscious thoughts that we have, period. They don't come from anywhere else. Unless someone's poking you. I'm not talking about physical abuse. I know I get comments on occasion about, oh, but they're so, they're physically abusing me. That's a whole different, that's not the space in which I coach in. That really requires a different type of professional. So it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the daily, normal, general suffering that we create in our mind. It's a habit. It's just a thought habit. I have the key to unlock that. So, we all human beings are living in a thought created experience 24/7. I'm going to repeat that and actually think about it. Pun intended. Okay. So you are living in a thought created experience or a thought created reality. You're living in a thought created world 24/7. You think it, then you feel it. When you can actually experience that, see it, feel it, and oftentimes you won't see it and feel it unless you have a new thought and act on that new thought. And then you kind of like take a step back and go, wow, I used to think differently and act differently. And look at me go, I shifted a simple thought, and my actions that followed were different than what I normally would do. Okay. That's disrupting the pattern. That is self-leadership. That's emotional leadership. That's leading your life from authority or autonomy. And that's really learning how to train your brain to work for you rather than against you. Because your brain and your mind are going to constantly want you to repeat old patterns because that's safety. Even if that creates misery, it doesn't care. Your brain doesn't care if you look sexy, if you fit in a size 5 pair of jeans. It doesn't care if you're rich. It doesn't care if you have 1,000 friends on Facebook. It doesn't care if you have a bunch of likes. It doesn't care if you have trophies. It doesn't care if you're happy. It does not care. It's keeping you safe. It'll continue to repeat patterns that are familiar. So what I point you towards is not intellectual understanding, it's an experiential understanding. When you stay at an intellectual wanting to understand how things work, you're not taking action, you're not disrupting old patterns and loops, and you're going to stay where you're at. You're going to keep experiencing misery. You're going to keep experiencing frustration. You're going to keep experiencing what you've always experienced. And it's going to create more of that because you're going to look for that and not see opportunity. You're going to stay pessimistic. You're going to stay looking at what's wrong with you, what's wrong with everyone else, what's wrong with this world, and continue to complain and blame. We're not looking either to manage your actions. We're not looking to control what you do. That's not at all what I point to. In fact, you can't control your thoughts. It's not possible. You can unlearn your thought loops and patterns and learn new ones. You can command your brain to work for you rather than against you. You can shift your focus on what you want more of. That's what I point you towards. So the emotional loop that you're staying stuck in and getting more of what you don't want in life is just a habit. When you learn how to consciously be aware of what thoughts am I having, what feelings am I having, and being able to name them and look at them with deep curiosity, with grace, with forgiveness, with wild childlike curiosity, with compassion, with grace. Like, wow, That's interesting. Is that really true? Or is that helpful? Is that supportive? For instance, here's a couple of them, like, again, encounter with somebody else. So if you have a thought, oh, they just ignored me, what you're going to feel is, I'm not good enough. I don't matter. I'm insignificant. They don't like me. What ends up happening? The action that follows is withdrawal, right? Maybe you block them. Maybe you ghost them. Maybe you ignore them next time. You have no idea what's going on in their world. They are stuck up in their head and their thoughts. No idea what they're dealing with. You don't know what kind of news they got today, right? Tap into compassion. Anyways, so if they ignored me, what is you can look at that thought and go, is that true? No, it's not true. I know it feels true. Your thoughts and your feelings are valid. Okay, so every thought that you feel, that you get attached to, that you get wedded to, that you believe are going to create a feeling, and that's valid. So if you're thinking they ignored me and that's what you're going to run with, that's valid. Every thought and feeling you have is valid because that's what's going on up in your mind. But is it true? Is it helpful? Is it empowering? Is it optimistic? Is it supportive in keeping that bond and that connection with that person? Or are you going to continue to complain and blame that it's everybody else's fault? They ignored me. You have a choice in believing that thought. You have a choice in that moment to go, maybe that's true, but I'm going to choose to think they're really busy today. They're preoccupied. They're overwhelmed. They have a lot going on. I'm going to give them space. Or maybe your choice would be, I'm going to come from a loving, caring, supportive way and just go, hey, Sarah, it looks like you're really overwhelmed today. Is there anything I can do for you? I mean, I can go get you a coffee. I can get you an ice cream. Is there, I have time. How can I take something off your plate? I just want you to know I deeply care about you. Right? That's coming from love. Another one might be if you think they didn't say thank you. They're ungrateful. They're unappreciative of me. I went out of my way for them. And then you snap, you blow up like, oh, I'm going to tell you how I feel. I've been holding back on this forever. Maybe you're going to dump on them all these angry feelings that you've been suppressing, and it just bursts, blows up in their face. Maybe they don't have the tools or know how to say thank you, or maybe their way of saying thank you is different than yours, and that's okay. Are you doing things for other people for being validated? Are you doing things for people with an expectation of a thank you? Just because people do things differently doesn't make it right or wrong, doesn't make what you do right or wrong either. When you come from love, it's serving with no expectations. It's providing value to people because you just care. Another thought might be, I'm not good at this. Look at me. I don't know how to do anything. I'm terrible. Why even bother? This is a waste of time, and just quit. Well, I can tell you one thing. Everything that I was first started doing, I wasn't good at. Like driving stick shift. I was terrible at that at the beginning. Now it's like automatic, right? Non-consciously, I can drive stick shift without any thought. But man, it took a lot of hours of practice, grinding gears and going, oh man, an embarrassment. I remember one time I picked up my daughter at high school. I think she was a freshman in high school. And I picked her up at school and it died right there. And she just wanted to crawl underneath the seat and hide. We're all not good at everything the first time we do it. I mean, maybe if you're really gifted and you're just that type of person that you're just good at everything, well, great. I would give you a high five, but that's not me. So if any of this sounds familiar, that there's a lot of pessimism and woe's me and blame and complain, it's not your fault. You're just on autopilot. And maybe you're in an environment around people that have a habit of doing that. Maybe you picked up that habit somewhere, and we're all negative bias. So that's normal and natural to lean towards blaming and complaining and judgments and making assumptions and having expectations. I hear it in my clients all the time when I first meet them. That's just a habit. It could be unlearned, untrained. And let me tell you, life is so much lighter, so much easier when you just focus in on yourself. Manage your own emotions, self-regulate yourself. Let everybody else do their thing. And why doesn't anybody teach this stuff? Like, I wish it would have been taught to me a long time ago. Conscious awareness is, it's a gift. It's the secret. Not the secret. Is you guys are probably going to go, oh, the secret. I'm not talking about manifesting. That's not what I'm talking about. That's a whole different topic, not something that I teach, preach, or train or educate people on. That's a whole different thing, and can actually paradoxically create a lot of I have met several people, that new clients and clients that end up working with me, that used to fall into that. And I love listening to their stories where they attempted that approach. And I truly believe that that's, again, externalizing things, and that's the band-aid on the sliver. It's a lot of external focus, and that's not, I really like to point my clients into living from the inside out, not the outside in. Okay. So manifesting is kind of a little bit of both, but if it's done incorrectly, it can be very externally focused, which again leaves you feeling overwhelmed and out of control and feeling anxious and worried, and it's stressed. You're in the future and you're in the past, you're in the future and in the past. And I really want to point you towards here and now. Anyways, our feelings, we all have feelings, right? We have all the high and the low feelings. I don't really want to say good or bad, even though I might say that occasionally, but all feelings are proof of what we're thinking. That's it, right? We think, then we feel. So our feelings are alarms, they're alerts, like a smoke alarm. And these alerts are old conditioning, old beliefs, old assumptions, old judgments, old expectations. There's layers and layers and layers of code or bits of information that your brain has stored, and your mind is making sense of it all. Your feelings are felt in your nervous system, no doubt, right? So when we think something and we have a feeling, it feels real, it feels true. And it's so often that when I first start working with clients, I use this metaphor, and it's not I don't work with a lot of weight loss individuals anymore. Occasionally, like I'm having a lot of past Ozempic users or Mojarvi or all those coming to me now because they lost a lot of weight and their quality of life went down and they feel terrible, and they're trying to get their life put back together again and trying to understand how to eat again. I mean, I have a feeling that in the next 2 years, it's going to be kind of a mess out there, but because in my opinion, how you lose weight is how you got to keep it off. And if that's not sustainable and your quality of life goes downhill, what are you doing? Like, that's not, I don't think that that's what that's for. And again, it's working on what's inside of you, your thoughts and your feelings, and navigating and self-regulating your thought patterns and loops before you add something in there that's could be damaging to your health. I'm hearing all kinds of stuff that's coming out too on I mean, everything has its cost, right? So there is a huge cost to that stuff, but I'm not saying it's good or bad or wrong or right. If you believe in it and it's working great for you, great, amazing. just do your research and get regular checkups. Um, and if your quality of life is amazing and great and you're happy, that's awesome. So I'm not talking, it's very general. I get that. Take it with a grain of salt. All right. I forget where I was going with that. I know I was going with it with weight loss, but I think I digressed too much there. So let's move back. So your feelings are, again, an alert, an alarm. They're letting you know what your thoughts are, what your mind and your brain are entertaining, what they're believing, what they're getting wedded to, what they're clinging to, what they're getting gripped by, what thoughts you're fueling, maybe consciously or non-consciously. And what I believe to be true is if your suffering is internal, like it's through these thought loops and patterns on repeat, that's great. That's amazing. And that's awesome because it's within your realm to unlearn and relearn a new pattern, right? If it's somebody outside of you poking you with a stick and you can't leave, that's a whole different thing, right? That's something that you're going to have to get different help, not from me. And also we can't, and maybe it's just as simple as, and this isn't simple and this is not fun, and I'm not condoning this, but let's say your boss is talking down on you or micromanaging you. That is more challenging to work through because that's dealing with another human being. Now, I have worked with clients that have navigated that and become and really actually understood their boss and navigated it in a way that they loved their job and actually understood their boss, and actually we were able to create connection and understanding and navigated that in such a way that, you know, the relationship was amazing and incredible and both people won, right, in a way that all things turned out wonderfully. But let's say your boss is micromanaging or a jerk or really passive aggressive or mean, you know, that's, it's difficult, can be very difficult to navigate that. Where if it's internally, it's within inside of you, you have the ability to have more awareness and more knowledge and pivot and change. And truly, I do believe 100% in a lot of the things that I've dealt with clients and my own self. It's really about 3 days of really getting really serious and seeing the importance in this and shifting how you think and feel about that thing. It's really about inoculation. It's really about intentionally putting yourself in a position or in a way to see things differently, to experiencing that thing differently. And your brain will adapt, it will mold, it will change, it will grab onto this new pattern, and it will learn a new way of being rather quickly. And it's amazing. It's impressive. It's adaptable. It's moldable. It's like Play-Doh. You have to be really aware and conscious, and it has to be very important. The chances of changing someone else is probably 0%, probably 0.01%, right? To change yourself, you have 100% possibility, is another way to word it. So whenever you're feeling a low feeling, maybe it's tight or pressure or insecure or unsure or angry or upset, it's your clue, right? It's your clue that you're in a low thought pattern, a low thought reality, and you have the power within you to shift that. Awareness is first, right? I know for me, I had recently about a 3-week period of really kind of living in a low thought pattern, a low quality thought pattern. And I kept thinking, wow, you know, what is this about? And then I kind of felt the nudge of wanting to fix it, wanting to change it, wanting to understand it more, and why kept coming up. And what that does is it creates more resistance, gets your brain and your mind spinning in that same low quality thinking pattern. It gets you focused in on what's wrong with me. It got me in a place of, well, I got to fix this. I got to change this. I got to do something. And it just got me in a kind of in a hustle type of energy. It got me into a clingy, needy kind of energy. And that creates more of it. It creates more resistance. It creates more low quality thought. It gives my brain, it focuses on what's wrong outside of me, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with the people around me. But when I was open and willing and curious and optimistic to seeing something different, without blame, without complaining, without pressure, without urgency, and I shifted towards self-compassion and self-love and curiosity and bravery to let it move through me and allow me to learn from it without needing to do anything about it, it lessened the grip it had over me. And it just kind of like washed away, not instantly, like it took several days. And that's okay because it was familiar. It was a familiar feeling that I used to get stuck in, not for 3 weeks, but I would get stuck there for the year or for months. So I talk to you from human to human and say that we all feel all the feelings, right? We navigate all the feelings from fear and grief to love and to excitement and joy. We feel all the feelings, but it's learning to be able to feel all the feelings without getting lost in any one feeling, right? Because I mean, obviously, if all of us could choose feeling love and joy and excitement, happiness all the time, we would all choose that, right? We would grip to that and we'd hold on to that and we would try to stay in that space. Obviously, we'd all want that top shelf, amazing, incredible feeling, but the reality is that's not life. I don't know that we would know what joy and happiness and love is without feeling the grief and sorrow and loss. So when a feeling is a low feeling, again, that's a clue, that's an alarm, that's an alert that you're caught up in low quality thinking that's generating this reality. Nothing wrong with you. All right, so I want to use a metaphor, and so today I decided to use a train station metaphor. So think of your mind. Again, your mind is all the stories, the thoughts, the judgments, the thinking that you have going on, whether it's conscious or non-conscious. So conscious are the ones that you hear. Another way to word this is intentional thinking, right? Intentionally, you're thinking, I'm going to go get a glass of water and drink it. You hear that thought. A non-conscious, unintentional thought is one that you don't necessarily hear. It's kind of running this show. It's in the background. And a lot of times I think of it as like brushing my teeth. There's a lot of thought that goes on when the first time you brush your teeth, which you probably don't remember. I don't. There's a lot of thought, or let's say riding a bicycle. That might be a better one. There's a lot of thought in learning how to ride a bicycle the first time, but after you've done it on repeat, your brain picks up on the patterns and then it becomes non-conscious. Okay, you're non-consciously riding that bike. You can get on a bike after not riding one for 10 years and you know how to do it. It's programmed, it's wired in you. So anyways, so the train station metaphor. So imagine your brain or your mind, imagine your mind is a train station. And each thought, each flavor of thought, each type of thought is a train that pulls through the station. So some thoughts are helpful. Some thoughts are wild. Some thoughts are extreme. Some thoughts are old and outdated. Some thoughts are intrusive. Some thoughts are exciting. Some thoughts are joyful. Some thoughts are gratitude. Some thoughts are grief. Some thoughts are sadness. Some thoughts are joyful. Okay. Now you don't have to board every single train. You can let some of those go by, especially the intrusive ones, the angry ones, the upset ones, the grief ones, right? We can just let them go by and wave. Go, hi, grief. Hi, angry. And you can look at each train with wild curiosity of a child. And you can choose to wave down what train you want to get on. I find that to be a fun little metaphor for the fact that I can reflect on just today and go, what train did I wave at today? Wave on, let go by. And what train did I wave down and say, let me ride on that today? Like there was a moment earlier that one train started to stop by that was controlling. Let's call it controlling. And I was like, ooh, you again. And it stopped at my train station. And I'm like, no. You go ahead. I'm going to get the next train that said peaceful or patient, or I think peaceful is probably the best way to describe it. And that's the train I got on. And that's the train that I'm staying on for the context of what I'm thinking and what I experienced. I won't share that story with you because we don't have enough time, but but I saw that train. It was like controlling. Yeah, no, thanks. You go on, you go ahead and go to the next city. You find somebody else to get on that one. I don't want that. Like that feels icky. But it was interesting. And what I'm pointing to is if I would stay in my non-conscious mind and let that old pattern of controlling jump on that train, I would have honestly created a conflict with my husband. And what's interesting about it is I know that I've done that before. I can't put my finger on when, but I know that I've jumped on that controlling train probably very recently. He could probably tell you when that's happened, but I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. No. I want to be at peace. I want to make peace with this. I want to jump on that train. And it felt really good. And that's what I stayed grounded in. And then I responded. I said things from that peaceful place, where if I would have said things from the train of controlling, we would have kind of went back and forth and in a kind of like not in a conflict. My husband and I do not argue and we do not fight. In fact, we watched a show last night on TV where they are fighting, the boyfriend and girlfriend, they were fighting. And I was like, why don't we do more of that? Because we don't. Both of us have a lot of skills and talents in negotiations. And yeah, neither one of us are conflict oriented people at all, which is beautiful. It's amazing. But what is funny about it is controlling for me, again, I'll find a way to negotiate to get my way, to get what I want. But it's fascinating in that situation. It's very small. It's a very small situation and a very itty bitty thing. But it was just, I knew in that moment, like, that's not supportive for my husband and I. Supportive is a big word for me in our relationship. So I just didn't feel like that was supportive. And so again, I chose peace of mind versus the controlling train. Anyways, I hope that helps. It might seem a little evasive and it is. But anyways, let's talk about Sarah and John. For a while now, I've been using Sarah and John as my specimens, so that way I can share stories without using people's real names. And sometimes these stories are purely made up, and sometimes they're bits and pieces of things that have happened with my clients. But anyways, I want to share with you two different scenarios, same situation, different minds. So different thought processes, different outcomes. Okay, so both Sarah and John are preparing, right? They're considering or preparing or figuring out a way to approach an important conversation with one another due to a lack of connection. Maybe there's been some distance between them. So let's say Sarah, poor Sarah, she's in a busy mind, right? Her mind is racing. Her mind is very busy. The roommates in her mind are really loud and talking a lot today. So what her thought is John never listens to me. Okay, so it's a thought. So that train going by would be probably frustrated, right? That train, there's a train of frustrated that stops at the train depot. Maybe the train is also named defensive. So frustrated and defensive. And she jumps on that train. And what she does as a result of being on that train is she will enter the room with an energy, a spirit, an aura, a feeling of frustrated and defensive. Okay. You can feel that tension in the room. You can cut it with a butter knife. She might even actually have her phone in her hand, completely unlocked. Who knows what she's got that on? Maybe it's her best friend. Maybe it's social media. Who knows? But what she is coming from, again, her energy is frustrated and defensive, and her voice will be at a tone that is alarming. Maybe her arms are crossed. Well, she has her phone in her hands. Maybe she still has her phone in her hands, her arms are crossed, or maybe she has one hand on her hip. She might have her brows crinkled. She's coming from the energy of controlling, right? She has an agenda. She has an outcome that she's expecting from this conversation. So what she's going to end up creating is an argument. What another metaphor I like to use is create tug of war, right? She's on one end of the rope and John is on the other end of the rope, and she's just going to start yanking on that rope. So she's going to create an argument. She's going to position herself and create distance and a wedge. She's going to create disconnection, even more disconnection, right? The conversation that she wants to have is that she feels disconnected from John, but she's paradoxically going to create more disconnection. She's going to create more distance. She's going to inevitably walk away feeling more hurt, not heard, not seen, not important. She's going to blame him. She's going to think from judgment. She's going to be more critical of him. She's going to hold him in contempt. She's going to withdraw from the bank account of goodwill in their marriage, their relationship. See how that works? It's like an avalanche. Now, let's say wipe the slate clean, same situation. But John wants to lead this dance. John wants to lead this conversation. John is operating from a quiet mind. He has emotional clarity, and he wants to have emotional leadership. Again, I believe every conversation, there's a leader and then there's a follower, and it could switch back and forth, and that's perfectly fine. But he wants to lead from emotional clarity. He wants to lead from love, unconditional love. Okay. So his thought is, I want to understand where we're missing out on connection. He's going to come from a feeling of unconditional love, calm, peaceful, openness, open-hearted, optimism. He's going to be fully present. Maybe his phone is off. Maybe it's not even in the room. He's going to operate from curiosity. He's going to want to understand if Sarah's feeling the same way. He's going to want to know what's going on in her reality, in her world, what her bandwidth is, if she's willing to maybe carve more time out to be really connected. He's going to be curious about what her view is, what her perspectives are, how she would articulate, describe their relationship. So John is going to bring it up in a way that's open-hearted, optimistic, curious, but no agenda, right? Other than more connection, like really wanting to connect more with Sarah if she's open to it, if she's available to it, if it's important to her, if it's something that she values, because he does. So his action is going to be listen more than talking. He's going to share what he's experiencing from his view, not what she is or isn't doing, from his view. Like, I'm really feeling like I really want to feel more connected. How do you feel about that? He's going to shift to having her feel heard, seen, important, and open up trust and optimism in their relationship, or in that dialogue, in that conversation. So what the outcome is going to be is an honest dialogue that goes back and forth. Help me understand. What is it like for you? Are you feeling really connected to me? And offer space for repair. You know, maybe Sarah's feeling a little distant. Maybe she needs to air out something that's on her mind. And it may not have anything to do with John, right? It might be her overwhelming thought about the kids, or a school they're in, or a teacher, or maybe there's a conflict in one of their relationships at school, and she's just, her mind is on bills or something like that. And maybe John has the capacity and bandwidth to help out, right? Whatever. There's some sort of bond and connection where they're on the same team. There's no tug of war, there's no rope. And the train that's coming through that he's jumping on is unconditional love. And deposits in the bank account of goodwill are made. So it's the same topic. Of course, I reversed the roles for John versus Sarah. It's the same opportunity, two minds, two stories, two totally different outcomes, two different energies. So what has changed is, it wasn't the people in the story. The people are the same. What changed is the state of mind. What changed is the energy. What changed is expectations. There were no expectations. There were no agendas, right? It was just, I'm looking to understand myself and what you're experiencing, and if you're experiencing the same thing. So one is coming from a calm mind, one is coming from a busy mind. So when we come from a calm mind, we're able to hear our own inner wisdom. We're able to really quiet down the noise, right? The noise would be what I like to call intrusive thoughts, right? The roommates in your head that are like, she doesn't like you anymore. She thinks that you're a loser. She thinks that you have a dad bod. She thinks that you're lazy. I don't know. Like, the mind is quite honestly very brutal. I call mine bossy pants because mine is very bossy. I know of clients that I work with that have demoralizing demons in their head. That's what they've named them. Yeah, and other names, but I feel like that one's quite brutal. And you'd be surprised that the people that have the most brutal voices are the sweetest, most kindest people. And that is what's going on constantly in their mind. And it's like, I've got to help you. I will help you. We will get this calmed down. There is a way. It's quite easy, actually. Simple. Let's say simple. Easy is how you think about it. Simple is how I will make it simple for you. Thoughts are optional. We don't have to grapple with every single thought. We don't have to believe every train that comes through the train station. We don't have to get on every train. It's really understanding how your brain works, and your mind and your consciousness and your thoughts. All of these things have a huge impact on your reality and how you feel in every single moment. And when the more awareness you have, the easier it is to navigate them. So clarity and connection with John and Sarah, with that story, clarity and connection doesn't come from controlling or demanding that the other person be, act, or say things or think a certain way. It comes from calmness. It comes from optimism and understanding and curiosity. It comes from seeking to understand. It really is a quiet mind. It really is wanting to understand somebody else's reality and what they're wanting to convey or what they're experiencing. So are you thinking and believing something right now, today, this week, that has you going down a path of frustration, judgment, criticalness? I think critical has been really big in my practice lately. People that are being really critical and judgmental of their boss, of their spouse, of their kids, and these are adult kids, being very judgmental and critical of their neighbors, being critical and judgmental of people that they work with. That has been lately really high. Not sure why. It doesn't matter. We don't need to know why, right? No need to go down that road. But that has been quite common, and that's just a habit. It's just a habit of thought. There's another way, and it's quite simple to shift it. But anyways, if you are experiencing that, I'd love to know, and if you're open to it, put in the comments what you're experiencing, and you can be very vague. And if I can support you in any way and share some wisdom, I certainly will. I love hearing from you guys, sharing what you are experiencing, what you're dealing with, or what's on your mind. What are some barriers and challenges that you're dealing with that you want to overcome? And again, I don't believe there's anything to fix, meaning there's nothing wrong with you. It's really navigating how you see things. Okay? And I don't mean that in the logical sense, how you see things, but it's how you're experiencing things, how things will appear differently in your world when there's small, little, simple shifts. Okay. So go ahead and share with me in the comments, if you will, what you learned today, what your action step is. And again, if this resonates with you and you want to have a conversation, want me to help you in any kind of way, text me the word ready or whatever, whatever your heart says to text me at 509-800-7264. And again, or comment on this video. I would love to support you, help you in any way that I can. That's what I'm passionate about. I love helping people see and experience things differently and have a life that's easier, peaceful, more light, freer. Add your words, insert your words here. Life is really meant to be fully lived. Life is meant to be lived in a way that you don't need a vacation from it. You don't need to create a life that's super busy and overwhelming and frustrated. Like, you can really experience life in a lighter, freer way. I promise you. So, and again, like I said at the beginning, it's probably likely doing less, not more. All right, guys, thank you. And I will see you next time. Bye now.